Hi, everyone. Welcome. Thank you for being here today. I'd like you to rub your hands together as fast as you can. Feel the warmth and energy in between. Some of you aren't doing it. That's your choice. Some of you are doing it half-heartedly, and that's a choice. And then when you separate them, see if you can feel that energy shifting between your hands. You can play with it a little bit, a little closer, and then a little farther apart. That energy flowing, right? Feel it. Almost feels like a ball of energy as you go back and forth. You can kind of stretch it until it sort of disappears and then bring it back together. So a lot of what we're going to be talking about today is energy, right? Energy shifting around our planet. We're going to open with this image that you see on the screen was created by a middle schooler named Roy Park. And Roy Park says this, he wrote this reflection about this art that he created. When I first decided to draw my artwork, I thought of drawing a polar bear on a block of ice, of melting ice, signifying how global warming is affecting our oceans. Then I learned how the thickness and extent of the Arctic ice has been declining rapidly over the last decades, and how glaciers are also retreating almost everywhere around the world. From the Alps, the Himalayas, the Andes, the Rockies, Alaska, Greenland, Africa. And then I realized I should be drawing a bear that has already sunk, not one floating on melting ice. This gave me a clearer picture of how our glaciers and ocean animals are sinking away too fast, and it inspired me to draw Sinking Beauty. Sinking Beauty is an illustration of a polar bear sinking from the destruction of humans, displaying the cold, hard facts from our torture of the ocean on its fur. In the end, I hope the viewer understands this ghastly change to our Earth from my piece. And here's the cool part. I mean, that's all really cool what he writes. He writes, and I hope the viewer stands with me against this outrage. Stands with me against this outrage. So a few weeks back, I asked the discussion post question of what's a big question, something that you're wondering about, a big topic that you think we should talk about. And a lot of you, a pretty high percentage of you, wrote about climate. Today is the climate class. 50 minutes to talk about what's happening on our planet is pretty fast. So we're going to squeeze a lot into today. But before we do that, I want to ask you this question. I think we've all had this experience. What blocks me from feeling? So I'd like you to take a moment and talk to your neighbor. What blocks me from feeling?
Really, I'm not really.
Yeah. Who would like to say something about this question? What blocks me from feeling?
Like if I'm not witnessing something firsthand, like why should I care about it? Like if it doesn't affect me personally, then I don't really like care that much about it.
When there's a
guess.
physical separation from whatever the thing is, it's hard to care about that. Great. I mean, not great, but yes, a very valid. I've thought a lot about that. What else?
I think that feeling sometimes puts me in like a vulnerable place, and it's hard for me to justify to myself sometimes being vulnerable.
Yeah, that's really hard. Absolutely.
I think that sometimes when like I'm in a setting and I just think that I shouldn't like really show emotion or whatever, I just like tend to have like just like a straight face, like not really anything. But yeah.
Yeah. Can you raise your hand? I can't find you. Oh, thank you. Sorry, I just couldn't find you. Yes. And so when I'm in a space where it doesn't feel very welcome to be emotional, it's very hard. So yes, it could be the space and the time. Thank you. Yeah.
For me, I'd say that like I've been in some toxic friendships, and because of that, I've put up these walls, and like I've had a guard ever since because I was told I feel too much and I show my emotions way too much. So because of that, that has been something that has blocked me from like feeling and opening up and being true to myself.
Yeah. I feel that one very deeply. So having people who are, well, she defined them as toxic, right? That are not welcoming to those emotions. You feel too much. You're weird because you have feelings. There's somebody back here. Yeah.
I said judgment. So in two ways, judging myself for feeling certain ways. So I kind of block that out, and also judgment of other people.
Yeah.
I feel like that can block me from empathizing with others, and that can stop me from, like, I guess, making a connection.
Yeah, it does. Judgment, we have it. It's part of who we are. It's part of our wiring for a reason. And yet sometimes we don't, it's used in ways these days because we don't have to make judgments about all the time about dangerous situations. We use it in other ways. So judgment is an emotion, or it can lead to emotions, right, that are uncomfortable. Was there somebody else? Yes.
Yeah, I feel like so like processing emotions or like really taking the time to understand your emotions is like it takes a lot of time. And so
Yeah.
sometimes it's like I just don't have enough time in the day to think about this. Like I need like there's just I'm busy, like there's things to do.
Oh my
So it
gosh.
feels
Yeah.
like that's kind of a block.
Yeah, for sure. Time. It takes time to process all those emotions. So there are all these reasons that we might push the emotions down inside, but then there are consequences to that as well. When we're putting those emotions aside and not paying attention to the emotion or the intuitions that come with it, all of that connection that we get from that vagus nerve that's so important, we've talked about. But when we don't pay attention to it, or when we put it away for later, or whatever, if we're afraid to express it, that all has consequences too. So going back to where we were last week, that idea of love, allowing ourselves to feel requires that vulnerability. It takes energy, it takes capacity, and allowing ourselves to not hide from those emotions. And so we're going to watch a quick video about emotions. Why do we have them? What does it tell us? So check this quick video out.
Emotions signals that are delivered through the body to let us know that we need or want something. To break it down a little, emotions have three parts. The first is the physical feeling itself. Maybe you've heard the idea that emotions are energy in motion. Well, it's true. First, something happens in our environment, and then we interpret it. We might interpret it consciously, or even more often, there's at least aspects that are interpreting it subconsciously, without you aware. And however you interpret the emotion is going to signal a physical reaction in the body. This physical response is how we know we're experiencing emotion. If the body didn't feel an emotion, we wouldn't know the emotion is there. This is important in meditation because your body is your emotional signaling device. When you want to know how you feel, that's where to look. The second aspect of emotion is why we feel, which is to motivate us. Emotions are an evolutionary aspect of the human self that tells us when we need to change something. And these changes can happen in one of two directions. Positive emotions motivate us to change things in a positive direction, to keep doing more of whatever makes us feel good. Negative emotions motivate us in a negative direction. They feel awful, so we naturally want to avoid them or limit the degree to which we feel them. So it signals that something's not working for us, and if we need to change something, do something different. And then the last aspect of emotion is how we interpret the emotion itself. And this is super important because how we understand and think about our emotions is going to dictate how we behave and listen to our emotions. So often we think of emotions as these like mysterious, scary, unpredictable forces that come at us. What if we did interpret them more as just signaling devices? That might not only make emotions feel less scary, but it might give you a more effective way to deal with them. Because when you look at your emotion as a signaling device, you might start to listen to what they're trying to tell you. It's like emotions are just the messenger, and don't shoot the messenger. It's not gonna solve your problem. If anything, it's just gonna have more and more messages keep coming at you. If you actually listen to the message that's being directed, you might actually be able to do something better for yourself. Well, I hope it's
So that idea of motivation, our emotions can motivate us. And so I want you to think about that and consider that as we go through more and more of the challenges that we face, including today's topic of climate change. So I'd like you to think about what observations you've made over your lifetime, what's different in weather patterns, sort of long-term weather patterns over the course of your life. What have you noticed that's different, if anything? So take a moment, talk to your partner. You might be from very different places in the world, and that's a cool opportunity. Who would like to speak to something you've noticed?
So I'm from Jersey, so we get like all 4 seasons, but like over the years, like snow's gotten much less. I mean, back in like when I was like 2013, it was snowing on Halloween, and that was like a huge thing. But like now it snows in like January and February, like very late. So
Yeah, agreed. I've noticed that too. Did anybody else talk about snow? Quantities, timing? Yeah, lots of snow conversations. It's a good way for us to measure. What else?
I mean, I kind of agree with what he was saying too. I'm from PA, and like we don't really have a winter anymore. And then
Yeah.
also just like there's no transitions. It just goes from really hot to really cold or really cold to really hot.
Yeah.
There's no
it
spring.
Seems
so-
like dramatic shifts in, yes, I've noticed that too. How many people have thought about that? Dramatic shifts in temperature? Yeah, you've got a lot of people with you. Yeah.
So I'm actually from Florida, so we don't get any seasons there. It's just 4 different seasons of hot weather.
Yeah. And has that been consistent your whole life?
Pretty much. I've noticed that it's gotten like hotter throughout the years though. Like this 4th of July was the hottest it's ever been.
Yeah. Warmer. Okay. How many people have noticed just overall warmer temperatures? Yeah. Bunch of people there.
I was gonna say, I feel like each season has gotten a lot more like intense. Like the winters are colder, and like each like the storm, like I feel like it's just like a lot more intense than like it was when I was younger.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, intensity. We've had some very cold colds and some very warm warms in a place where we feel like it right here anyway, that it's, should be more average, I guess, in those seasonals. So interesting, I've lived twice as long as you, and I remember we used to start sled riding on, Thanksgiving, and then the snow just stayed until March, and that doesn't happen anymore. So it's a fascinating shift. Things are shifting. Scientific evidence for the warming of the climate system is undeniable, according to the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, the IPCC. If you want to know more about climate change, this is the place to go, the IPCC website. We'll be hearing more from them in this video. Our climate, our future. It's true, it connects to every part of every place on this planet. Do we watch the world burn, or do we choose to do what's necessary to move forward, to achieve a different future? That's a big question. We've known about the possibility of climate change since the 1930s, and we've been certain that it's happening since the 1960s. And yet some strides have been made. People are working hard at this around the planet. And we need to continue. We need to up our game as to what's happening. So the idea that we cannot go above 1.5 degrees Celsius rise, temperature rise, average on the planet, was the initial advice, the initial findings of the IPCC. The IPCC is comprised of thousands of scientists working together all around the planet, doing all kinds of research on oceans, atmosphere, and everything in between. And so the video show, we're already at 1.1 degrees Celsius, And we're well on track to reach that 1.5, where more catastrophic, more dramatic things will be happening on our planet. According to a study published by the Citizens Climate Lobby, 75% of Americans are concerned about climate change. So how are we going to work toward change? We need ecological and societal systems. They're going to be affected, right? The video brings in the food, water, health, nature, all the things that we've talked about. So the Earth's climate, when we look at the global mean temperature, the difference, so this is where we are headed, right? This is where we've been, I'll point over here, and moving up. And so you can see from 2000, we've been reaching this higher and higher global mean temperature. In the last 20 years, it's become pretty dramatic, with last year being one of the warmest or the warmest year on record. So there is climate, right, which is the overarching patterns of weather. In the last 650,000 years, there have been several cycles of glacial advance, so planet naturally cooling and naturally warming again, but that's not what's happening now. What's happening now is that we are affecting the atmosphere with all of the chemicals, particularly carbon dioxide and methane, that we're putting into the atmosphere. So this is a simplified sort of, the sun sends its energy in, and then what happens, what used to happen without the greenhouse gases that are in the atmosphere, energy would escape back out through our atmosphere. Think about our atmosphere, it's 50 to 60 miles thick. So that's what's protecting our planet. That doesn't seem like very much to me. Like if we got in a car right now and drove at 60 miles per hour, by 4:30, we'd be out of our atmosphere. So 60 miles thick, that's what's protecting us. But now what's up there, trapped in our atmosphere, are these greenhouse gases. And so the sun is still sending its energy in, as we know, and then the gases get trapped and can't escape. The heat gets trapped and can't escape, and it gets reflected back to Earth, which is causing this warming cycle. So those bouncing rays. So when you listen to a radio in stereo, you can crank the volume up and up and up, but it gets to a point where there's so much vibration and static and busyness in there. It's distortion with sound waves bouncing around. That's what's happening. These waves are creating chaos, creating that distortion on our planet. The imbalance affects all of the energy flow on our planet. That energy flow, the greenhouse gases in the atmosphere, come from three main places. First, it comes from our transportation. Transportation is the top. Cars in the United States are our top climate affecting solution or pollution, right? Second is power plants. So when our electricity is being created by burning coal, that's creating these gases that are getting trapped in our atmosphere. And the third is from these wells, from oil and gas wells, and leaks in the pipelines, the compressor stations, and also in other infrastructure that transport gas from the wells to the power plants. So these are the three. So those are big, and it's important. The United States is the second. China is the top leading polluter. The United States is second. Third, India, Russia, and Japan are the top 5. So when we think about these, right, it's immediate that I don't have control over 2 of them. I don't have control over those things by myself. This, I can choose. I can choose what I'm doing with my transportation. So we're going to be talking about the effects of these. And so I want you to just stick with me for a while over the course of these class periods, because we are going to talk more and more about things that we have power to choose. So I understand I'm bringing some bad news with this that you can't do anything about, that I can't do anything about in our current lives. Not to say that you won't in the future. So the way that they know the difference, this 650,000 year history that I just mentioned, is because they can check the ice cores. They dig down, they pull these ice cores drawn from Greenland, Antarctica, and tropical mountain glaciers, where they can test that ice at different layers and see how much carbon dioxide is trapped in those layers. They can also find it in tree rings, ocean sediments, coral reefs, layers of sedimentary rocks. So all of this ancient evidence reveals that the current warming is roughly 10 times faster than ever before. So what's different? It's because our business runs on fossil fuels. Our economy runs on fossil fuels. It's a very challenging situation. So I'd like to highlight that although 75% of Americans believe that climate change is an issue, that leaves 25% who don't see it as an issue. So there are some people who are climate inactivists. There are a couple of categories. There are the people who are waiting to see the real reports, right? I'm not going to do something until I know that it's real. So there are those folks. And then there are the people that aren't going to do anything because it's inconvenient, right? Their lives might be tethered to the oil production, fossil fuel usage. We do know that this is happening, right? At the COP28 conference, the UN Climate Change Conference held in November of 2023, burning of fossil fuels was identified as the principal source of climate change. 85,000 people at that conference, more than 150 heads of state and government among the representatives from national delegations, civil society, business, indigenous peoples, youth, philanthropy, and international organizations. And they heard that fossil fuels is the primary reason for our climate change. And yet there are those who agree that climate change is happening, but they don't want to make change for some reason. So they try to delay or divide or deceive with disinformation, try to divide people or downplay and deflect, right? Those are strategies of businesses and corporations and countries that depend on the oil and the gas for financial stability and success. This is the chart of energy consumption by source. So you can see it's very small. There's oil, there's coal, and the green is the gas. And then when you get up here into these little colors, that's where the nuclear, the hydropower, the wind, the solar, the biofuels, and the other renewables. Others are geothermal, biomass, and waste energy. So you can see this percentage of what we're using, how these are increasing, which is a fantastic thing. Those are the people that are doing something. They see, those are some of the people attacking the problem from this angle. See how it's increased from here to here. And yet there's more to be done, right? Sadly, in our culture today, this becomes a political issue. Depending on our government's views, climate change may or may not be an important topic. Our current national administration has abandoned the US net zero carbon emissions target, which was previously set at 2050. So we were set to be carbon neutral, using zero carbon emissions or producing zero carbon emissions by 2050. But that's not the case at this point. So when the government isn't seeing climate as an important issue, The efforts must continue with NGOs and private organizations and individuals in the private sector working to keep the planet habitable. Because what's happening are these effects. The oceans are warming. So the oceans are expected to continue to get warmer, both in the top layer and in the deeper layers, the deeper waters. So even if we stop adding extra greenhouse gases now, our oceans are continuing. They're going to continue to suck that bad stuff out of our atmosphere. So even if we were going to produce no more greenhouse gases as of today, the oceans would still work for us. They have created, they've absorbed about 150 billion tons of this carbon dioxide that we have sent into the atmosphere since the Industrial Revolution. The great service that the ocean has provided for us has substantially slowed global warming, but it's been at a great cost. According to research, that has changed not only the temperature of the ocean, but if you remember back to chemistry classes, when you change the temperature, the pH, the acidity of the ocean changes. And so it's becoming more acidic. And then when the ocean, as we learned the other day, the ocean connects to everything that we do. So the rain that falls all over the planet then is also more acidic. Antarctica is melting from beneath because these warmer temperatures. So not only the air temperatures are melting it from the top, but the warmer ocean temperatures are melting it from the bottom. So that speeds up the warming. This melting then contributes to global sea level rise. So the Arctic as well is in the same effect. The Arctic is warming faster than anywhere else on the planet, and as a result, the sea ice in the Arctic Ocean is decreasing. The sea ice loss has far-reaching effects on our planet because that ice helps to regulate our Earth's temperatures, all of the climate. It influences all of our global weather patterns. If you remember back to the ocean currents that we looked at the other day, those gyres where the currents go up and they cool off in the Arctic and then come back down, creating all of those weather patterns, that's changing because the Arctic is warming. So that's going to change our Earth's temperatures all over the planet. It's going to change our food accessibility because polar vortexes, increased heat waves, and unpredictability of weather caused by ice loss are already causing significant damage to crops on which our global food systems depend. This instability is going to continue to mean higher prices and growing crises around the world for the world's most vulnerable. As this ice melts, it opens up new shipping routes in the Arctic. The routes will be tempting time savers, but they're incredibly dangerous. More shipwrecks, oil spills in areas that are inaccessible for rescue and cleanup crews. The wildlife, like that polar bear we saw at the beginning, when there's less sea ice, the animals that depend on it for survival must adapt or perish. Loss of ice and melting permafrost spells trouble for those polar bears, walruses, Arctic foxes, snowy owls, reindeer, and many other species. As they're affected, then the other species that depend on them will also be affected. And then the wildlife that are seeking other places to be come in contact with humans and their habitation, which causes more challenges. And then the permafrost. The permafrost is a big deal. As the Arctic ice and permafrost, the ground that's permanently frozen, that permafrost stores large amounts of methane, and that is a greenhouse gas that contributes to climate change. So the more that the Arctic thaws, the more gas is released into the atmosphere, thus increasing the rate of warming. So when we think about the temperatures changing, there are things connected to that. All of that ice melting, of course, then affects or leads to sea level rise. Less ice means more water. If all the glaciers and ice sheets melted, we would get about 200 feet of sea level rise. As it is right now, we are only at about 4 inches average on the planet. 4 inches is a big deal. 4 inches as the average means that there are places that are less, but then there are also places that are up to 10 inches of sea level rise. So when we think about the weight and the motion of the ocean, that's going to cause more erosion on the continents, on the coastal areas, overflooding of marshes and wetlands, moving salt water into fresh water in coastal waterways, change of habitats and the natural flows of water. So the sea level change looks like this right now. So the change being that sometimes, so this is in centimeters, the darkest blue dots are 20 centimeters, which is about 10 inches. So you can see these dark blue dots where the sea level has already risen, right, about 10 inches. So here we are in Miami, right, and then moving up the coast into all the way to New York City and then up into Maine and the coast of Canada. So you can see though that other places have lower, they've lost water in some places. This is because of gravity pull in different areas on the Earth. And then also there's different kinds of ocean dynamics that play into this. So places that are gaining water that didn't expect to, and places that are losing water that didn't expect to. Those places that are losing water end up being, they could be vulnerable to desertification. So this is Burkina Faso in West Africa. It's one of the countries most severely affected by desertification. It's the often irreversible process of losing the topsoil of an area, so they can't plant. This soil is too hard to plant anything in, and they don't, there's no nutrients there, and the soil salinities levels are increasing, intensifying the erosive factors, creating landslides. So all of this climate chaos is happening, right? Warmer, colder, more water, less water. There are places that are experiencing extreme tumult. Millions of people have been displaced by catastrophic weather disasters each year. Some of you in this room may be among those. My heart goes out to those who live in places where they are not the people that are contributing to climate change. They are not the ones using greenhouse gases, but they are the ones that are most affected. As climate change worsens, storms and droughts, climate scientists and migration experts expect that this number of people affected is going to rise. So the impacts of climate change are not evenly distributed among society. There's no political, social, economic, and environmental lines that this follows. So communities are vulnerable. So new phrases related to the situation: climate inequality, climate refugees, climate adaptation. So where we are is considering that we're in code red. Human-induced climate change is already affecting weather and climate extremes in every region across the globe. The atmosphere, the oceans, the ice flows, and on land. It's going to be stronger hurricanes, extreme drought, wildfires, floods, and food shortages. Research shows that 3.6 billion people live in areas highly susceptible to climate change. That could be from undernutrition or malaria, diarrhea, heat stress. That doesn't include hurricanes and all of their damage. So where we are, We're going to listen to these two beautiful women from two places in the world that have met up. Kathy from the Marshall Islands in Micronesia, so a very tropical place. She traveled to Greenland's capital city of Nuuk, where she met Inuk poet Aka, and together they embarked with a small film crew to a remote place on southern Greenland's ice sheet, where they recited their poem called Rise.
Sister of ice and snow, I'm coming to you from the land of my ancestors, from atolls, sunken volcanoes, undersea descent of sleeping giants.
Sister of ocean and sand, I welcome you to the land of my ancestors, to the land where they sacrificed their lives to make mine possible, to the land of survivors.
I'm coming to you from the land my ancestors chose. Nyalinganya, Marshall Islands, a country more sea than land.
I welcome you to Gadashikunda, Greenland, the biggest island on earth.
With me, I bring these shells that I picked from the shores of the Bikini Atoll and Runan Dome.
In my hand, I hold these rocks, picked from the shores of Nuuk, the foundation of the land I call my home.
With these shells, I bring with me a story of long ago. Two sisters frozen in time on the island of Buyana. One magically turned to stone, the other who chose that life to be rooted by her sister's side. To this day, the two sisters can be seen by the edge of the reef, a lesson in permanence.
With these rocks, I bring a story told countless times, a story about Sister Ma'amna, mother of the sea, lives in a cave at the bottom of the ocean. This is a story about the guardian of the sea. She sees the greed in our hearts, the disrespect in our eyes. Every whale, every stream, every iceberg are her children. When we disrespect them, she gives us what we deserve, a lesson in respect. To we deserve the melting ice, the hungry polar bears, to our islands, or the colossal icebergs, even these waters with rage. From one island to another,
I asked for solutions. From one island to another,
I ask for your problems.
let me show you the time. Coming for us faster than we'd like to admit. Let me show you airports underwater, bulldozed reefs, blasted sands, and plans to build new atolls, forcing land, ancient rising sea, forcing us to imagine turning ourselves to stone.
Can you see a glacier strong with the weight of Podolsky? I wait for you here on the land of my ancestors. High and heavy, the continuous thirst for solutions. As watch this land change while the world remains silent.
Sister of ice and snow, I come to you now in grief,
Morning landscapes that are always forced to change. First, through wars inflicted on us.
then with nuclear waste dumped in our waters, our ice. Now, this.
Sister of ocean and sand, I offer you these rocks, the foundation of my home. May the same unshakable foundation connect us, make us stronger than these colonized monsters that still to this day devour our lives. The very same beasts that now decide who should live, who should die.
Sister of ice and snow, I offer you these shells and the story of the two sisters as testament, as declaration that despite what we are told, we will not leave. We will choose them. We will choose to be rooted to this reef forever. From these islands,
We ask for solutions.
from these islands,
We ask, we demand that the world see beyond
these seas, SUVs, to pre-packaged convenience, they're really slick dreams. Beyond you believe that tomorrow will never happen, and this is merely an inconvenient truth. Let me bring my home to you. Let's watch as Miami, New York, Shanghai, Amsterdam, London, Rio de Janeiro, and Osaka tries to breathe underwater. You think you have decades before your home fall beneath tides? We have years, we have months before you sacrifice us again, before you watch on your TV screens and computer screens to see if you will still be breathing while you do nothing. My sister, I offer these funds as a reminder that our lives matter more than their power. The life no longer demands the same respect we all give to money. These issues will affect each and every one of us. None of us is immune. And each and every one of us has to decide if we will rise.
The only thing we have to do to be sure we will leave a ruined world for our children and grandchildren is to do exactly what we are doing now. If action is not taken, changes will take the planet into unprecedented climate future. The climate change is shaping the future of civilization. As daunting as it all seems, ignoring the IPCC's warning and information, continuing about our lives as if it didn't happen, feels crazy. So where are we going to need to go from here? We need connections. We need to remake parts of our society, transformational adaptation, communities and whole countries reconnecting and reuniting in ways that are different than what looks like on our planet now. So what I know is that we are in a crisis, and crisis is defined as danger and opportunity. Danger and opportunity. We have choices. We have creativity. And we have courage. So change hasn't happened by frightening people. For my life, I have experienced environmental education as you better do something or we're not going to change. So it's been put into me as fear. And so now I'm here shifting the story. I'm wondering what we can do from a place of love. What happens if I love the forests? If I love the animals? If I love the communities? What's going to happen? How could we change this place from the place of emotion that does take so much energy, and it takes time, and it takes vulnerability? Every idea and every person are necessary right now for this change. Some of you are going to have jobs that have never existed before. We are in unprecedented times. And so we're going to talk more about what this opportunity brings. Please remember that we have extra credit movie, and your Canvas discussion prompt will be up after class. Thank you.
Have something.
Sure.
So